This week on the Mindful Men podcast. And so you did the men's retreat, you discovered breath work. Where did it take you? Did you stay in your corporate job? At what point did you throw that away and go, you know what, I'm going to go headfirst into this breath work business?
So I wanted to go and find out more about the Wim Hof method. I was living in Rotterdam at the time and I knew he was Dutch, so I went off on a bit of a rabbit hole there. But I was in the corporate world, but I knew we were coming to Australia. And so I'd said, once I get settled, find a job, stay in the finance world, I'll probably do some kind of certification. And that's what I did when I first got here. If people want qualifications, there's not a lot of it out there really in terms of breathwork. It's not like a medical degree or anything like that. There's just different schools and they have certification programs, but the Wim Hof method is the most recognized, I suppose, out there. So yeah, my goal was to do that. Get some gravitas behind me, get some stuff. So I did my training here. COVID happened. Breathwork and COVID don't really go hand in hand that well. So it all got paused for a while we figured out what to do. And yeah, so eventually that happened. And
you mentioned Wim Hof. Talk us through like what that is for people that aren't familiar with Wim Hof's work.
yes, I mean, there's a whole story there about Wim Hof, and depending on who you listen to, there's a whole lot of stories, but he effectively overcame a lot of mental health challenges himself. You know, his wife took her own life and left him with some kids, and he went off on this whole spiritual journey, and effectively what he's developed is a method, and his method has three components to it. So breathwork, or conscious breathing is what it's called, is one of the pillars of his method. The other method is cold exposure, conscious deliberate cold exposure, and the other one is kind of mindset, commitment, how you approach things. And so he's developed this method that you then look at these different areas and focus on them.
Is that your preferred modality, or is there other modalities that you like to dabble in as well?
That's a good question. And for me, it depends on who's in front of me and what I'm trying to achieve and how long I've got. You know, a good Wim Hof session, a good one can take 15, 20 minutes. To have a real powerful, you can do it sat down, but it's good to do it lying down. If you've got people in front of you that are pregnant, if you've got people in front of you that have got maybe some panic disorder, if you've got people in front of you that are burning out already, it's probably not the best thing for them. So it is one of the core methods that I use, but there's others out there. You know, there's lots of different breathing skills, tools. So there's things like coherent breathing, which is the rhythm of your breath. There's oxygen advantage, or Buteyko breathing, which is the opposite of Wim Hof. It's really slow, really quiet, really gentle breathing. And there's a whole host of stuff in between. So it's almost like having a pharmacy of things in front of you, or a toolbox in front of you, like what tool is right for this particular job. And that's how I try to teach people, give them a set of skills that they can take away. Have you got 3 minutes, or have you got 30 minutes? Like, how long have you got?
Yeah. Is there a maximum time? Like, would you go, you know what, 3 hours of breath work isn't great?
Well, there's a couple of schools like holotropic breathing and rebirth, which some of those can go on for like an hour, hour and a half, and you're just doing it to music, and there's music in the background, you go. So I'm not sure there's a limit, but you need to have maybe a bit of experience. You need to have experienced people there. And so, yeah, I don't think there's a limit, but it can get quite intense and powerful and impactful.
So if anyone's listening and they're like, okay, this is piquing my interest, I'm stressed, I'm feeling burnt out, maybe I've done that before, maybe there's other mental health conditions, maybe there's other issues going on that they're just not coping well, and they go, you know what, I'm going to try this breath work. I'm going to put the hippie, perspective away. I'm going to try it. Talk us through what it would look like if someone was coming in to see you and do a session in a group session, like a small group. What would that look like?
So I'd be asking them, why you here? Like, how is it showing up in your life? Like, what's the situation for you? You know, how are you feeling? I want people to tell me what it's like. And then I tend to start quite light with people. And I spend a fair bit of time working on their awareness of their breathing, you know, simple things like breathing through their nose rather than their mouth. And we do some simple ideas. Awareness is a superpower. Like just catching yourself, like emotions, right? Name it to tame it and all that stuff from the emotional intelligence world. But spotting how you're breathing is powerful, because if you can tap into that. And then we spend some time doing some simple skills, and then we slowly build. And then I slowly build on people. And what you're trying to show people is, when I talk about stress, you've kind of got 3 different moments of intervention, right? You can either deal with it before it comes. You know it's about to come. You're going to give a speech. You're going to go and do a presentation. You've got to go and present the numbers to the board. You're going to go in for a job interview, whatever it might be. So beforehand, what can you do to keep the stress levels under control? Or what can you do to lift yourself if you're feeling really flat? What do you do in the middle of it? So you're in the moment and it's getting stressful. Can you catch it? And what do you do in that moment if you catch it? And then afterwards, what to let it to recover. You're going from one meeting to the next. You've just had a really powerful conversation with someone, a really impactful one. It's been draining, or you've just been on the end of something that you're going to bottle it up. out, but do you want to let it go? Or it's the end of the day, or it's the weekend, and it's been a hell of a week or a hell of a day or a hell of a month or whatever it is. It's been busy season and you're just sat there. It's like, oh, what can you do? Because there's no one size fits all. And what's right for one person isn't right for someone else. Maybe if someone's burnt out and they kind of suffer from a bit panicky Wim Hof method, it might be way too much for them too. It might be way too soon, because it can really send you over the edge if you're not used to it. But it's teaching people to slowly tap into themselves and learning how they're reacting to things and how they can get a bit of control back. That's my goal.
Do you have many guys that come into your sessions?
Yeah. Oh, there's lots. I mean, the ice baths are quite popular with the guys, but also I do quite a few one-on-ones with guys. I think they just maybe prefer that rather than in a group. I'm in the period of trying to set something up for a group of local dads just to take them through a session, but trying to get dads together is like trying to herd cats. So that's a challenge in and of itself. And that's my goal, really, because that's how I discovered it. That's how I came across it. I want to do it in a group session, and I want to do something for dads or for men, which is why I reached out to you in the first place. And they tend to have a different attitude towards it. For them, it's just, they just feel a bit shit and they want to see what this is like. They've heard about it, or they want to try it, or they want to try something new. Or, yeah.
Why is working with men important to you? Like getting that dad's group or getting other men's groups together. Why is this an important work for you?
Because just from my own experience, I know how good we are at pushing things down. And I was lucky enough to find it early enough that I could deal with stuff on my own. And so, whatever people will tell you, men were often told that, stiff upper lip, and cultures are different. I get that, but it's that stiff upper lip, hold it down. We just deal with stuff. We don't really share. We don't talk. We certainly don't talk to our friends about this stuff, because everyone's got their own, and we just hold it all in. And for me, that space where you can get everyone together and that shared experience is something quite powerful. And that's what I want to try and share with people and give them that. See what it's like. It might not be for you, but just have a go at this and see. You might be skeptical like I was. You might really go for it, but just see, and you'll start to realize you're not alone. And that phrase, like I say, you have to do the work yourself, but you don't have to do it alone. And I think that sense of isolation, loneliness, being alone, dealing with stuff yourself is the problem, without going too dark, is why men take their own lives more, because they get to a point where they can't deal with it and they think they're dealing with it themselves. And the only answer is to, and that's quite, I know that's quite stereotypical, and I know it's an overgeneralization, but I think, and men have the tendency to be more brutal, so they tend to be more successful with those attempts on their life, right? I've got an uncle who took his own life, couldn't cope with a situation with a woman, so it's impacted our family. And again, people knew he was struggling, but didn't know that much, and that was his answer. And I'm not a therapist, I'm not a professional, I'm not a psychotherapist and stuff like that, but what I am saying is there are just ways that you can come together with people and release a little bit, and then so that's why it speaks to me. That's why it's powerful.